The colony on the distant planet of Therion had lived in peace for many years. Humans and aliens coexisted without much trouble, each group content in their ways. The colony's small settlement was peaceful, with fields stretching far and wide and skies always clear. But one morning, the calm was shattered. A strange ship appeared in the sky, its sleek form cutting through the clouds like a blade. The ship was unlike any the colony had ever seen, its design far more advanced than anything humans had built. It moved slowly, almost as if it was aware of the fear it was causing below. The people of the colony watched from their windows and open fields, their eyes wide with worry. Whispers filled the air. What was this ship? And why had it come? Soon, the ship landed quietly near the central square. It hovered above the ground, casting a long shadow on the dusty earth. People gathered in groups, their hearts racing with a mixture of curiosity and fear. They had heard the stories, tales of an alien princess, a member of a powerful race that once ruled vast parts of the galaxy with an iron fist. Some even called her a tyrant, a conqueror who crushed entire civilizations under her heel. But no one truly knew the truth. All they had were the stories, passed down over generations, about how the princess's people were feared and respected by all. Among the crowd stood Alex, a young man who had heard the rumors but had never truly believed them. He had grown up in this colony, surrounded by the stories of distant wars and the fear of unknown alien species. But Alex wasn't afraid. He had always been different from the others. While the colony's leaders took every measure to prepare for battle, Alex simply watched the ship, intrigued by its design and how it seemed so calm, almost peaceful. His curiosity drew him closer to the landing site. His footsteps were steady, though his heart beat faster with each step. The people around him kept their distance, huddling together in fear, but Alex moved forward without hesitation. He didn't understand why, but something about this moment felt important. It felt like something that would change everything. As the ship's hatch slowly opened, a figure stepped out. At first, Alex could only make out a silhouette against the bright light of the ship's interior. But as the figure moved forward, the light revealed a woman, tall, graceful, and with an aura of power that seemed to flow around her. Her skin was a striking shade of pale blue, and her eyes shimmered like stars in the night sky. The crowd gasped. The princess was here. Alex's breath caught in his throat. This was the woman the legends spoke of. She was not like the fearsome warrior he had imagined. There was a softness to her, a beauty that seemed to radiate from within. She moved with purpose, her gaze scanning the crowd. And then, as if sensing Alex's eyes on her, she looked directly at him. For a moment, everything else seemed to vanish. The noise of the crowd, the whispers of fear, they all faded into the background. The princess's gaze locked onto his, and in that instant, Alex felt as though she was looking right into his soul. And then, in a voice that was both gentle and commanding, she spoke. "I've been waiting for you," she said. The words the princess spoke echoed in Alex's mind. "I've been waiting for you." He stood frozen, not sure what to think. The people around him whispered, their voices filled with fear. The princess was the one they had all heard stories about, the one whose name was whispered in terror across the galaxy. Yet here she was, standing before them, calm and unafraid. Alex didn't know what to make of it. The stories he had heard growing up were always filled with fear and destruction. Her people, the Exalzer, were said to have conquered worlds, enslaving civilizations and demanding loyalty with a ruthless hand. The princess was no exception. They called her a tyrant, a leader with unmatched power who could destroy everything in her path. But something in Alex's gut told him that this was different. The princess didn't look like the monster the legend spoke of. She wasn't wearing armor or carrying weapons. Her eyes were soft, filled with an intelligence that was almost warm. It was clear she didn't come here to fight. The colonists, however, weren't so sure. The leaders gathered in secret meetings, their discussions full of worry and fear. They quickly made plans to fortify their defenses, just in case the princess's arrival was the beginning of an invasion. They reminded each other of the old stories, of how her people had once wiped out entire fleets. The more they talked, the more the fear spread. They were convinced that the princess's appearance could only mean one thing: war. Alex, on the other hand, was torn. He had grown up hearing tales of alien invasions and fierce battles, but those stories never felt real to him. Now, standing before the princess, he wasn't so sure. She didn't carry the air of a conqueror. She wasn't demanding anything. She simply seemed curious. The princess turned from the crowd, her gaze still focused on Alex. She began to walk slowly, and without thinking, he followed her. As he moved closer, he could feel the weight of everyone's eyes on him. The colonists were watching, confused, angry, and uncertain of what to make of his actions. Some muttered that he was foolish, others that he might be a traitor. But Alex couldn't bring himself to fear the princess. Her presence was magnetic, not threatening. As he reached her, she spoke again, this time quieter, as if she were speaking only to him. "I came here to find peace," she said. "I do not seek war." Her words felt strange to him. How could someone like her, someone from a species so feared, want peace? Was it possible that the stories they had all heard were wrong? The legends made her sound like a villain, but Alex was beginning to think there was more to this princess than the stories had led him to believe. The princess smiled, as though reading his thoughts. She gestured to the sky, where her ship still hovered, a silent reminder of the power she controlled. "There is much more to my people than destruction," she said softly. "You will see soon enough." As Alex looked into her eyes, he found himself believing her. Maybe, just maybe, this wasn't the end of everything, but the beginning of something new. The princess's words lingered in Alex's mind long after their encounter. He couldn't stop thinking about her calm presence and the sincerity in her eyes. The whole colony was in a state of tension, yet here she was, a symbol of both power and peace. The colonists were still fearful, but Alex felt a growing sense of curiosity. He needed to understand more. The next day, as he walked through the central square, he heard whispers again. The princess had been seen in the governor's office, talking to the colony's leaders. Some said she was demanding tribute. Others feared she was planning her next move. The fear had spread like wildfire. But Alex didn't share that fear. He didn't think she came for war. There had to be more to this story. As he walked past the marketplace, his thoughts consumed by the princess, he was suddenly pulled from his reverie by a quiet voice. "Alex." He turned to see a familiar face. It was one of the colony's council members, a man named Harland. He looked concerned, his eyes darting around before settling on Alex. "They've sent for you," Harland said, his voice low. "The princess wants to meet with you. Alone." Alex blinked in surprise. Why would the princess want to meet with him? He was just a regular colonist, nothing special. But Harland didn't offer an explanation. Instead, he just nodded toward the outskirts of the settlement, where the princess's ship remained grounded. "Go," Harland urged. "She's waiting for you." With a mix of excitement and nervousness, Alex walked toward the ship. The streets were quiet, the usual buzz of conversation replaced by an uneasy silence. Everyone was still too afraid to approach the princess, but Alex felt differently. He didn't know why, but he was eager to understand who she really was. As he reached the ship, a guard stepped forward. Without a word, he motioned for Alex to follow. The interior of the ship was nothing like the dark, cold halls Alex had imagined. Instead, it was warm and inviting, filled with soft lights and beautiful designs. Everything about the ship was strange, yet comforting. He followed the guard down a narrow corridor and into a large, elegant room. There, standing by a window that overlooked the colony, was the princess. Her figure was silhouetted against the setting sun, her long hair flowing like liquid silver. When she turned to face Alex, Her eyes locked onto his with an intensity that made his heart race. "You came," she said, a small smile playing at the corner of her lips. "I knew you would." Alex stood there, unsure of what to say. He felt out of place in the luxurious surroundings, yet he couldn't help but feel drawn to her. There was something about her, something that made him believe that she wasn't here to harm anyone. The princess stepped closer, her gaze soft, but filled with purpose. "I've been waiting for you, because you are the key to my people's future." Alex's mind raced. The key. What did she mean? And why him? "I've come to offer something more than power," she continued, her voice steady. "I want peace, but first, I need you to understand why I am here." Alex nodded slowly, eager to hear more. The fear that had once held him back seemed to fade with every word she spoke. Maybe, just maybe, the princess wasn't the monster everyone thought she was. The princess's words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. Alex listened intently, trying to make sense of what she was saying. He had always heard the stories about the Xal'Zur people, how they were a race of conquerors who destroyed entire civilizations. But the princess standing before him didn't look like the monster from those tales. She looked different. She took a deep breath and motioned for him to sit across from her. The soft glow from the ship's lights bathed them in a calm, peaceful atmosphere. The tension that had once surrounded Alex seemed to melt away as he took his seat. "I can see it in your eyes," the princess said, her voice gentle but firm. "You're wondering why I've come. You're wondering if I'm here to destroy your people, to claim your world for my own. But I am not here for conquest." Alex blinked, taken aback. He had assumed the same thing everyone else in the colony believed, that the princess's arrival was a sign of war. But now, hearing her speak so calmly, he was unsure of what to think. "You see," she continued, "my people once ruled vast stretches of the galaxy. We were powerful, feared by every species we encountered. But that power came at a cost. The war, the destruction, it destroyed us. My people lost everything." Her voice faltered for a moment, as if the weight of those memories was too much to bear. Alex watched her, his heart beginning to soften. He could see the pain in her eyes, the sadness that lingered just beneath the surface. She wasn't just a ruler of a broken empire. She was a woman who had lost everything. "I've come here," she said, her tone steady again, "because I want something different. I don't want to conquer. I don't want to destroy. I want peace, a chance to rebuild what my people lost. And I believe that your people, humans, can help us do that." Alex frowned, his mind racing. Peace, after everything her people had done. But something about her seemed sincere. She didn't speak with the arrogance or anger he had expected. Instead, she spoke with hope. "You are the key," she said again, looking directly into his eyes. "The agreement between humans and my people has been lost over the years, forgotten by both sides. But the truth is, your ancestors once made a pact with my people, a pact of peace and cooperation, and I've come to honor that pact." Alex was stunned. He had never heard of any such pact. His people had no idea they were once involved in anything with the Xal'Zur. But as he looked at the princess, he began to wonder if it was possible. Could peace be possible between humans and the Xal'Zur after all the stories of war and violence? "Why me?" Alex asked, his voice quiet. "Why am I the one you're talking to? I'm just one person." The princess smiled, her eyes filled with warmth. "Because you are more than just one person. You are the bridge between our two worlds. You have the power to help bring peace between us." Alex was silent for a long moment, trying to process everything she had said. The princess was not here to conquer, but to heal. Could it really be that simple? The princess's revelation hung heavily in the air. Alex sat there, his mind spinning with the weight of her words. She had come for peace, to honor a forgotten pact between their people. But as much as he wanted to believe her, the colony was not ready to accept such an idea. The news of the princess's intentions spread quickly, And it wasn't long before the colony's leaders called an emergency meeting. The fear that had simmered beneath the surface now erupted. The council convened in a secure chamber, discussing what they should do next. Every member of the council was convinced that the princess's offer of peace was nothing more than a trick, a ruse to gain control over their world. Alex had been invited to the meeting, but he was met with cold stares and murmurs of doubt as soon as he stepped inside. The leaders of the colony were terrified, convinced that the princess's peaceful act was just a way to lower their guard before launching an attack. They couldn't see what Alex saw: the sincerity in the princess's eyes, the genuine hope she had shared with him. "Alex," Governor Eldrick said sharply, his voice filled with concern. "You're the one who spoke to her. What do you think she really wants? She can't be trusted. The stories, the legends, we can't ignore them. Her people are dangerous." Alex felt a pang of frustration. He knew the stories. He had grown up hearing them too. The tales of the Salzur Empire, of civilizations crushed under their rule. But this princess, this woman, was different. She didn't carry herself like a conqueror. She didn't speak with malice or ambition. All she wanted, she had said, was peace. "She says she wants peace," Alex said quietly, but firmly. "She wants to rebuild what her people lost. She's not here to conquer us." The room fell silent. The council members exchanged uneasy glances, unsure whether to believe him or dismiss his words as naive. "You've spent too much time with her," Eldrick snapped, his voice rising. "You've been charmed by her. The Salzur are known for their manipulation. She's playing you, Alex, and now she's playing all of us." Alex stood up, feeling his pulse quicken. "I'm not saying we should just trust her blindly, but we can't ignore what she's offering. She's asking for peace, and if we don't at least try to see where this could go, we might lose the chance to prevent a war before it even starts." Another council member, Councillor Grissom, spoke up. "You're being foolish, Alex. This isn't some simple misunderstanding. The Salzur didn't just leave a legacy of power, they left a legacy of destruction. We can't risk that happening to us." Alex felt his frustration boil over. "You're all too afraid of what might happen. What if you're wrong? What if the peace she's offering is real? What if we're making a mistake by rejecting it without even giving it a chance?" The room fell into tense silence once again. No one spoke for several moments, each person lost in their own thoughts, struggling to decide whether to trust Alex or cling to the fear that had been built up over years. Finally, Governor Eldrick stood. "We will not make any decisions until we know more. We need more time. Alex, stay away from the princess. For now, we need to focus on protecting the colony." Alex's heart sank. He knew the colony wasn't ready to accept the princess's offer, but he couldn't help feeling that this was their only chance. He had seen something in her that the others couldn't see, a hope for a better future, and he feared that if they rejected it now, they might never get another opportunity. The days after the council meeting felt heavy. The leaders of the colony had made it clear that they weren't ready to trust the princess, and Alex could feel the tension building. The fear that had been in the air for so long was now turning into something more dangerous. Whispers of war were starting to spread among the people. They were afraid, and it seemed like no one wanted to take the risk of peace. But the princess didn't back down. She was determined to prove that her intentions were true. She had promised peace, and now she was going to show them that it wasn't just empty words. One evening, as Alex walked through the colony, he was approached by one of the princess's guards. The guard, a tall figure with sharp eyes, motioned for him to follow. "The princess requests your presence," the guard said. Alex didn't hesitate. He knew what this meant. She was about to show the colony that she wasn't a threat. The princess's ship had been parked just outside the settlement, and Alex made his way there, his heart racing. As he entered the ship, the princess was waiting for him in a large chamber, her presence calm but powerful. She smiled when she saw him. "Alex, thank you for coming," she said, her voice soft but firm. "I've decided to show the people of your colony that I am not their enemy. I want to give them a chance to see who I really am." Alex nodded, feeling a mix of hope and concern. He had seen the princess's strength, but he hadn't seen her use it. She had been careful, speaking of peace, but he wasn't sure what kind of test she was planning. Was she going to do something that would frighten the colony even more? The princess turned toward a large panel on the wall. She pressed a button, and suddenly, the room was filled with the sound of shifting metal and buzzing energy. The air seemed to change, growing heavier. Alex felt a chill run down his spine as the room's walls began to glow with an eerie blue light. "I'm not here to destroy," the princess said, her eyes locked onto Alex. "But I do have power, and I need to show them that it's not something to fear." With a fluid motion, she raised her hands. The lights in the room flickered, and the floor beneath them began to hum with energy. Slowly, the ground began to shift, as if the very gravity was bending to her will. Alex's eyes widened as the room seemed to change shape around them. The princess controlled the gravity in the room, making the walls shift and the air feel thick. The hum grew louder as the energy built up, but not once did Alex feel afraid. The power she wielded was not for harm. It was a demonstration, a message. The princess lowered her hands, and the room settled back into its original form. The lights returned to normal, and the strange energy faded. She turned to Alex, her expression serious. "This is just a glimpse of what I can do. My people were once feared because we wielded power without care. But I have learned that power must be used with responsibility. I have no desire to harm anyone. I only want to prove that we can work together." Alex was speechless. He had seen something incredible, something that no one else in the colony had. The princess wasn't showing off her power. She was showing them that her strength wasn't a weapon to be feared. It was a tool, one that could be used for good. The princess's eyes met his. "Now, I need you to help me show them this. I need you to stand with me, Alex. This is the only way to prove that peace is possible." Alex felt the weight of her words. She wasn't asking for a simple alliance. She was asking for trust. And now he knew that he had to help her. The princess had done everything she could to show the colony that she meant no harm. It was time for the rest of the world to see it too. The days that followed the princess's demonstration were filled with tension. The colony's leaders were still uncertain, still fearful of what the princess's arrival might mean for their future. But Alex couldn't shake the feeling that he was witnessing something important. The more he saw of the princess, the more he believed in her words. She didn't want to conquer them. She wanted peace, a chance to build something new. As the days passed, Alex spent more time with the princess. He accompanied her on walks through the colony, talking about everything and nothing. They discussed the stars, the different planets she had visited, and even the small details of daily life on Earth. The princess, whose name was Elora, spoke with such passion about the future she wanted to create. She wasn't just the heir to a fallen empire. She was a dreamer, someone who wanted to heal her people's broken past. In these moments, Alex found himself drawn to her in ways he hadn't expected. There was something about the way she spoke, the way she looked at him with those shimmering eyes, as if she could see into his very soul. He hadn't realized how much he had come to trust her until one quiet evening, when they were sitting together on a hill overlooking the colony. The sunset bathed everything in a soft golden light, and for the first time since the princess's arrival, Alex felt a sense of peace. "I never thought I'd find someone who understood," Elora said quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. "For so long, I was just a symbol of power, a weapon. But you see me for who I am, not just what I represent." Alex looked at her, his heart pounding. He had never been one for grand gestures or deep emotional connections, but something in Elora's words struck him deeply. She wasn't just an alien princess from a distant world. She was someone who had suffered, someone who had been alone for a long time. "I see you," Alex said softly. "I see more than just the princess. I see the person who's been carrying the weight of an entire people's history. I see someone who's trying to make things right." Elora smiled, and in that moment, Alex felt something shift between them. It wasn't just trust, it was something deeper, something more personal. He had known her for only a short time, yet it felt like he had known her for years. The princess leaned back against the grass, her eyes fixed on the horizon. "I know that the people here are scared, and I understand why. My people's past is full of destruction and fear. It's hard for them to see that I'm not like the stories they've heard." Alex nodded, understanding her pain. People are afraid of what they don't understand, but they'll come around. They have to see that you're not like the stories. You're not here to hurt them. Elora sighed, her voice filled with a sadness that Alex hadn't heard before. "I want to prove that, but I don't know if they'll ever fully believe me. I don't know if they'll ever trust me the way you do." Alex didn't hesitate. "They will, but it's going to take time. You just need to be patient, and I'll be here, helping you every step of the way." Elora turned to face him, her eyes filled with a mix of gratitude and something else. Something Alex couldn't quite place, but whatever it was, it made his heart race. "I'm glad I met you, Alex," she said softly. "You've shown me that not all humans are like the ones I've heard about in my past. You're different. You're the reason I'm willing to fight for peace." Alex's chest tightened as he looked at her. In that moment, he realized that he wasn't just standing beside her for the sake of peace. He had come to care about her, more than he had ever expected. And as they sat there, side by side, looking out over the colony, Alex made a silent promise to himself. He would do whatever it took to help Elora and her people find the peace they both wanted. The days following Alex's conversation with Elora were filled with uncertainty. Although he believed in the princess and her message of peace, the rest of the colony was still divided. There were those who saw Elora as a threat and others who, like Alex, wanted to trust her. But as the tension between the two groups grew, the worst fear of all came to life. One quiet evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Alex received word of a secret meeting. The colony's leaders, unwilling to trust Elora any longer, had made plans to take matters into their own hands. They had decided that the princess and her people had to be stopped before they could gain any more influence. Fear and paranoia had clouded their judgment, and now they were preparing for an attack. Alex's heart sank when he heard the news. He had known the leaders were scared, but this was more than he had ever imagined. He rushed to meet with Elora, hoping that he could warn her in time. When he arrived at the princess's quarters, the door slid open, and he was greeted by one of her guards. The guard's face was unreadable, but there was a certain tension in the air that Alex couldn't ignore. "Alex," the guard said quietly, "the princess is waiting for you." Alex entered the room, his stomach tied in knots. Elora was standing by the window, gazing out at the colony. She looked calm, but Alex could see the worry in her eyes. "Elora, we need to talk," Alex said, his voice filled with urgency. "The colony's leaders, they've decided to take action. They're planning to attack." Elora turned to face him, her eyes filled with shock. "What do you mean, attack?" she asked softly, almost as if she couldn't believe it. "Why would they do that? I haven't done anything to hurt them." Alex swallowed hard. "They're afraid. They think you're here to conquer them. They don't understand what you want." For a moment, Elora just stared at him, her face a mix of disbelief and sadness. She had come here for peace, and yet the very people she had hoped to help were now turning against her. "I didn't want this," she said quietly. "I only wanted to rebuild. But it seems like the past is too strong a shadow to escape from." Alex's heart ached for her. He could see that she was struggling to hold on to her hope, but the weight of the situation was beginning to take its toll. "We have to stop this," he said urgently. "We can't let them attack you. We can't let the cycle of fear and violence repeat itself." Elora nodded slowly, her expression hardening. "I will not fight unless I have no other choice," she said, her voice steady. But if they attack, I will defend myself. I will defend my people. Alex nodded, understanding her resolve. He couldn't let the colony make the same mistake his people had made in the past, fighting out of fear and misunderstanding. I'll help you, Alex said. We'll find a way to stop this before it goes too far. But even as Alex spoke, he knew the situation was becoming more dangerous by the second. The leaders of the colony had made their decision, and they weren't going to back down easily. The time for words was over. The princess's message of peace had been ignored. And now, Alex was faced with a difficult choice. Stand with Alora and risk everything, or stand aside and let the war that had been brewing for years finally erupt. The night before the planned attack, the colony's atmosphere was thick with tension. Alex could feel it in every corner of the settlement. Whispers in the streets, fearful glances from neighbors, the sudden hush that fell when he passed by. The leaders had made their decision, and there was no turning back now. The princess and her people were seen as a threat, and the colonists were determined to protect themselves at any cost. Alex couldn't sleep. His thoughts raced as he lay in his bed, his mind replaying the events of the past few days. He had seen the princess's sincerity. He had seen the hope in her eyes, the way she wanted to build a future of peace, not war. And yet now he faced the harsh reality that the colony would not accept that vision. They were too afraid of the unknown, too wrapped up in their fear of the past. He had to act. There was no time to waste. The first light of dawn broke across the horizon when Alex made his decision. He couldn't let this happen. He couldn't let the fear of the past control the future of both their worlds. He needed to warn Alora before the attack began. Alex rushed through the streets, his heart pounding in his chest. He made his way to the ship, the one that had landed so many days ago, still sitting at the edge of the colony like a symbol of the unknown. He didn't know if he would be too late or if he could even change anything, but he had to try. As he reached the ship, he was stopped by one of Alora's guards, who quickly led him inside. The princess was waiting for him, her expression calm but expectant. "Alora, they're coming," Alex said, his voice tight. "The leaders are attacking. They believe you're a threat." Alora's face didn't change, but Alex could see the weight of his words sinking in. She had known the risk all along, but hearing it aloud made it real. The peaceful dream she had come with was slipping away, replaced by the reality of an impending war. "I knew this might happen," she said quietly, her voice filled with resignation. "But I didn't want to believe it." Alex stepped forward, his eyes filled with determination. "There's still time. We can stop this. You don't have to fight. If you show them that you're not their enemy." Alora raised her hand, cutting him off. "I don't want to fight, but I will defend myself if I must. My people have been hunted for so long. I cannot just stand by and let them attack without answering." Alex could see the inner struggle in her eyes. He knew she didn't want this. She didn't want to hurt anyone, but she couldn't be defenseless either. And he understood that. "We have to make them see reason," Alex said urgently. "You don't need to show them power. You need to show them who you really are." Alora nodded slowly. "You're right, but I can't do this alone." "I'll stand with you," Alex said, his voice firm. "We'll show them that peace is possible. I know it won't be easy, but we have to try." With a final nod, Alora turned to her guard, giving the order to prepare. They didn't have much time, but they would make one last stand for peace. As Alex and Alora walked out of the ship together, heading toward the heart of the colony, Alex's heart raced. He didn't know what would happen next. He didn't know if the colony would listen or if they would fight. But one thing was certain: he wasn't going to let fear win. Not without a fight. The sun was beginning to rise as Alex and Alora walked toward the heart of the colony. The streets were quiet, too quiet for the morning. Fear hung in the air like a thick fog, and every footstep felt like it echoed louder than it should. The people of the colony were preparing for battle, convinced that their only option was to defend themselves from the princess and her people. But Alex didn't feel fear. He felt a quiet, steady determination. He believed in Elora. He believed that peace was still possible, even now, even when everything seemed to be falling apart. As they reached the central square, they were met by a group of the colony's leaders, their faces hard with anger and distrust. Governor Eldrick stepped forward, his eyes narrowing as he saw Elora. His voice was filled with frustration. "You have given us no choice," he said. "We warned you. You wanted peace, but you've come too close. Now we have to protect ourselves." Elora stood tall, her posture regal but calm. She didn't respond with anger. Instead, she spoke with quiet authority. "I never wanted war. I never came to take your world. I came to rebuild, to offer peace. But peace can't be forced. It must be chosen." The crowd around them murmured, the tension thick in the air. Some of the colonists looked uncertain, their fear warring with the hope that Elora's words had inspired in them. But others, the ones who had been too afraid to trust, were still set in their ways, their fear outweighing any hope. "I've seen your power," Governor Eldrick said, "and I've seen what your people have done. How do we know you won't destroy us all once you have what you want?" Elora's eyes softened, and she took a step forward, her voice steady. "I have the power to destroy, yes, but I choose not to. My people once ruled through fear, and it led to nothing but devastation. I've learned that strength does not mean domination. Strength is in restraint, in choosing peace even when it seems impossible." Alex could feel the shift in the air. The words were having an effect. The colonists were listening, and some were starting to understand. There was still fear, but now there was something else. Hope. "I know what you've heard," Elora continued, "but you don't know who I truly am. And I am not what you fear. I'm here because I want to help. I want to build something better, not just for my people, but for all of us." Governor Eldrick looked at Elora, his face softening just slightly. He looked around at the other leaders, and for the first time, there was uncertainty in his eyes. "We've lived in fear for too long," Elora said, her voice gentle but strong. "But I believe it's time to stop. It's time to let go of the past and build a future where we can all live in peace." There was a long pause as the leaders and colonists exchanged looks, the weight of Elora's words settling in. Finally, Governor Eldrick spoke again, his voice quieter, more measured. Perhaps we were wrong to judge so quickly," he said, his voice tinged with doubt. "Maybe there's more to this than we thought." Elora nodded, her face filled with understanding. "It's not too late. We can still choose peace." And with that, the first step toward a new beginning was taken. The princess, once feared as a conqueror, had shown the colony that peace was possible. It wouldn't be easy, and there was still work to be done. But it was a start. Together, Alex and Elora had done what many thought impossible. They had broken the cycle of fear and begun to build a future where trust, not violence, could prevail. As the sun rose higher in the sky, Alex looked at Elora, a sense of hope blossoming in his chest. This was just the beginning. Together, they would face whatever came next, but for the first time, they would do so with the promise of peace guiding them forward.